The Admiral Kuznetsov, Russia's sole aircraft carrier, has endured a troubled history that highlights both the ambition and the challenges of the Russian Navy in maintaining a modern, capable fleet. Commissioned in 1990, the carrier has spent much of its life under a cloud of mechanical failures, operational challenges, and a series of mishaps that have raised serious questions about its continued relevance to the Russian military. In recent years, the Kuznetsov's deteriorating condition and the Russian Navy's failure to modernize or replace it with more capable vessels have led to an increasingly bleak outlook for the ship's future. From the outset, the Kuznetsov was not a model of operational success. Built during the final years of the Soviet Union, the carrier was intended to serve as a symbol of Russian naval power and a centerpiece of the Soviet Navy's ability to project force beyond its shores. But its design was compromised from the start. Unlike Western aircraft carriers, which are built around the ability to carry large numbers of advanced fighter jets, the Kuznetsov was designed as a compromise, with a mix of air defense capabilities and a relatively limited ability to operate fixed-wing aircraft. It had several drawbacks, including outdated systems and limitations in its air wing, which reduced its operational effectiveness. Nevertheless, the Kuznetsov remained an important asset for the Russian Navy throughout the 1990s and into the 2000s, despite its shortcomings. The ship made several notable deployments, including during the Syrian Civil War, where it served as the launch platform for Russian airstrikes against rebel forces. However, even during these missions, the Kuznetsov's operational problems were apparent. In 2016, during operations off the Syrian coast, two of its fighter jets, Su-33s, crashed within days of each other, and the carrier's age and the toll of constant deployment took its toll. Maintenance issues became more frequent, and by the late 2010s, the Russian Navy faced increasing difficulty in keeping the Kuznetsov in serviceable condition. In 2017, Russia initiated a major overhaul of the Kuznetsov, with the aim of extending the ship's service life and bringing it up to modern standards. The project, which was expected to take several years and cost billions of rubles, was intended to modernize the carrier's power plant, enhance its radar and communication systems, and improve its ability to operate modern aircraft. However, from the very beginning, the overhaul faced significant obstacles, many of which pointed to deeper issues within Russia's military-industrial complex. The problems with the Kuznetsov overhaul began almost immediately. In December 2019, the ship was docked for repairs when disaster struck. Its dry dock, a crucial piece of infrastructure used to support the ship during maintenance, collapsed, partially sinking the Kuznetsov. This accident severely delayed the repair work and caused additional damage to the ship's already fragile hull. In the years that followed, fires broke out on the ship multiple times, each incident exacerbating the carrier's already significant structural and mechanical issues. These fires were not only a sign of the ship's degradation but also highlighted the poor safety standards and lack of oversight in Russia's shipbuilding and maintenance facilities. By 2021, the Kuznetsov's overhaul had fallen even further behind schedule, with the timeline for its return to service slipping into the distant future. Initially, the overhaul had been expected to be completed by 2021, but it became apparent that this would not be the case. Reports emerged indicating that work on the ship had stalled altogether in 2020, as funds and resources were redirected to other priorities, most notably the conflict in Ukraine. By 2022, the Kuznetsov's return to service had become uncertain, and the Russian Navy began to accept the possibility that the ship may not be salvageable after all. In 2023, the Kuznetsov's situation became even more dire. The ship's crew, already reduced in size during the overhaul, was officially disbanded, signaling the likelihood that the Kuznetsov would not be returning to active service anytime soon. For a carrier of its size, an operational crew is crucial, and rebuilding one capable of handling such an aging ship would be a formidable challenge. Given that the Russian military was already facing personnel shortages due to its ongoing military campaign in Ukraine, it seemed unlikely that the necessary manpower could be spared to operate the Kuznetsov effectively. Amid these challenges, some military analysts began to argue that continuing the overhaul of the Kuznetsov was no longer justified. The carrier's age, combined with the mounting costs of repairs, meant that it would likely never be able to perform at the level expected of a modern aircraft carrier. The Kuznetsov is a Cold War-era ship, and many experts believe that Russia's military resources would be better spent on newer, more versatile platforms. One of the main arguments against continuing with the Kuznetsov's overhaul is the changing nature of modern naval warfare. Traditional aircraft carriers, such as the Kuznetsov, are increasingly vulnerable to a range of modern weapons, including hypersonic missiles, anti-ship missiles, and drones. These new weapons are capable of striking carriers from long ranges, making the concept of a large, vulnerable, fixed-wing carrier much less relevant in today's military environment. Senior figures in the Russian military, including former naval commanders, have publicly stated that aircraft carriers, in their traditional form, are outdated. They argue that modern warfare will require smaller, more agile ships that are capable of deploying unmanned aircraft, drones, and robotic systems, which are much harder to target with precision weapons. While the Kuznetsov has long been a symbol of Russian naval prestige, its continued service has become more of a burden than a strategic asset. The cost of its repairs and the uncertainty of its operational future have led many in the Russian military to question whether the ship is worth the investment. This is especially true given that Russia's naval focus is increasingly shifting toward other types of vessels, particularly amphibious assault ships. The project, 23,900 class amphibious assault ships, currently under construction in Crimea, represent a shift away from large, traditional aircraft carriers. These ships are designed to be more flexible and versatile, capable of carrying landing craft, armored vehicles, and troops, as well as serving in roles such as anti-submarine warfare and mine clearance. Unlike the Kuznetsov, these vessels can operate in a variety of environments, including shallow waters, and can be used for both military operations and humanitarian missions. They are also much smaller and cheaper to maintain, making them a more practical option for the Russian Navy. This shift toward amphibious assault ships, which can serve a variety of roles, is seen as more in line with Russia's current naval needs. Unlike the US or other Western nations, Russia does not have a global naval presence, and its strategic interests are largely focused on regional power projection. Amphibious assault ships provide Russia with the ability to project force in nearby theaters, such as the Black Sea, the Arctic, or the Pacific, without the need for a large, vulnerable aircraft carrier. The Kuznetsov's decline also underscores broader issues within the Russian military and its defense industry. Corruption, inefficiency, and a lack of technological innovation have long plagued Russia's military-industrial complex, and the failure to maintain and modernize the Kuznetsov is symptomatic of these systemic problems. In comparison to the rapid advancements being made in other countries' naval fleets, particularly China's and India's, Russia's inability to develop new and advanced warships speaks to the stagnation of its defense sector. With the exception of the Kuznetsov, Russia has few large surface combatants of its own, and its naval power is largely focused on submarines and smaller surface ships. While the future of the Kuznetsov remains uncertain, it is increasingly clear that Russia will not be investing in large, traditional aircraft carriers anytime soon. The shift toward more flexible and cost-effective platforms, such as amphibious assault ships, marks a new chapter in Russian naval strategy. The Kuznetsov will likely be remembered as a relic of an earlier era, a symbol of Russia's attempt to project power on the world stage that ultimately proved to be more trouble than it was worth. Russia's naval future may no longer hinge on the prestige of its aircraft carriers. The Kuznetsov's decline serves as a reminder that maintaining and modernizing such a large and complex ship is an increasingly impractical task in a world of rapidly advancing technology. As the Russian Navy looks ahead, it may be forced to adopt a more pragmatic approach, focusing on smaller, more adaptable warships capable of performing a wide variety of roles in an ever-changing global security environment. The demise of the Kuznetsov may signal the end of an era for Russian naval aviation, but it also represents a shift toward a more flexible and versatile navy that can adapt to the demands of modern warfare.